All right, so this is a 2022 Indian Super Chief Limited. This is the top of the line bike of the new Chief lineup. And this is the one that is fully decked out as far as the Chiefs go, with the windshield, the saddlebags, the passenger seat, the 116 engine, and the ride command on the instrument gauge. Didn't get a chance to shift down. So plenty of torque, just left that stop sign in third gear. So that's that. So here's the deal. About almost 4 years ago, April of 2017, I shot a vlog titled "If I Were the Head of Indian R&D." And I came up with, or I listed off the things that I thought Indian was going to do. And while I was not anywhere close to 100% accurate, there were some things that I did get ahead of time. One thing I didn't see coming was the upgrade to the 116 big bore kit that they put on the Thunderstrokes, which is now standard on this motorcycle that I'm on. And I also was wrong on the Indian rebranding the Victory Impulse, but I did say in 2017 that Indian needed to come out with a bagger with a frame-mounted fairing. I thought it would have the Thunderstroke engine on it, but I didn't see the Power Plus coming. But that's the Challenger, which in my opinion made the Challenger better. But one thing that I said that they really needed was a mid-range bike in terms of price between the Scout and the Chief. So what Indian has done is they have redesigned the Chief on the 100-year anniversary of the Indian Chief for 2022. And they've come out with a line of 6 of them, starting with the Indian Chief, which now is at $14,499 where it starts for a black one without ABS. And that is right in the sweet spot where Indian was missing something, because you had the Scout that was hovering around 11.5 to 12 for the full Scout, the Scout 60 that was under 10, and then it was 17 for a Chief Dark Horse. And they needed something that was around 14, 15, and that's where this new Chief comes in, to be around the same price range as what used to be the Harley Dynas and then became the entry-level Softails. Something that's not a massive step up for the Scout owner to have. What they did was, in their redesign, is they took the gas tank down to 4-gallon capacity. They shortened the overall length of the bike by almost a full foot, and shaved almost 100 pounds of weight off of it. And now, especially for me, I'm used to my Challenger, the bike feels as light as a feather and has way more power than it needs, because the 111 is still plenty peppy, and this is a 116, which is supposed to be the hot rod engine for the big baggers and touring bikes that are a couple 100 pounds heavier than this little guy. They put big fat tires on it, and then they came out with 6 trim levels. And I like the bike. If I had not owned a Springfield and then now a Challenger, I might be interested in it. If I had the money to have multiple motorcycles sitting in my garage, I might have one of these sitting in my garage. You know, I wouldn't go all out like this, but I'd probably do the Chief, which in white, but hey, there you have it. So they start off with the Indian Chief, which has got the 111. It has a standard gauge, and in a non-ABS trim in black is $14,499. It's available in different colors. It's available with ABS, but it's standard with cruise control, keyless ignition, a few bells. Maybe not all the whistles, but a few bells. Then the next one would be the Indian Chief Bobber, which the Chief has mid-mounted pegs and a handlebar similar to what I've got here in front of me. Not exactly. This one's got a little bit more width between my hands. But the Bobber puts the pegs out forward mounted, and you have mini 8 bars that are about up here. And then they've got the Super Chief, which is the mini bagger. It's got the saddlebags, passenger seat, the windshield. Those 3 bikes are all 111s. Then they do the Dark Horse trim, and there's the Chief Dark Horse and the Dark Horse Bobber. Same thing. Chief Dark Horse has the lower bars, the mid-mount pegs. The Dark Horse Bobber has the higher bars and the front mount pegs. And then this one, which is the Super Chief Limited, which I've already mentioned. And they all 3 have the 116, and they have this handy dandy new gauge cluster here that looks like a regular Speedo from a distance, but it's really a ride command screen. There's some bike information, more bike information, and there is the full-on navigation that can have weather overlay on it. And you still get your digital speed up at the top. Then you've got one that looks more like this kind of gauge, where you've got your tach, you've got fuel, gear indicator, all really easy to read, even in bright sunlight. I'm interested to see what that looks like in the nighttime. But on my frame, this bike feels a little small to me, but then again, I'm used to a Challenger, which, as far as being 6'2", gives me the most room of any Indian. So if I'm used to the bike I can really stretch out on, every bike's going to feel small in the Indian lineup. But for somebody who's a smaller frame or isn't used to the big Challenger, this would be a great little bike, especially to run around town if you don't want the windshield or the bags. They've all got the chopped off fender. They've all got that really big rear tire on the back. They all operate off of the same much lighter frame. And the stripped down Chief, which I rode a Chief Bobber yesterday with the 111 and was just floored with the power that it had. So if you've been riding a Scout or a Sportster and you're just looking for a step up into a big V-twin, this is it, because this is really, it's lightweight, it handles really well, it's got a lot of power, and it's customizable. And now if you got a Chief and you did put this kind of stuff on it, the windshield, the bags, the passenger seat, the pegs, then you in accessories you'd almost have the same price as the Super Chief. You're probably just better off doing that. And then the Dark Horse up to the Super Chief Limited for the 116 if you really want to have a lot of power. But the 111 is quite peppy as it is. And if you're the type of person that liked the old design of the Chief that was a whole foot longer and almost 100 pounds heavier, they're still making it. They're calling it the Vintage now. What always was the Indian Chief Vintage for the one that was fully dressed out for light touring with bags and a windshield, but they got rid of the Chief name and just call it the Indian Vintage. And they also have the Indian Vintage Dark Horse still. So those are still available for the current model year, and I don't think those are going anywhere, because there are still going to be folks who, when they think of an Indian, want the full valenced fenders and the leather saddlebags with the tassels and all of that stuff. But even to me, those looked like, bikes for older guys. No offense to people my age or younger that liked them, but this one's going to appeal to to other folks. I mean, they even look a little bit like, well, they look a lot a bit like the Harley Softails and the old Dynas. And like the old Dynas, the rear shocks are visible on the outside. You can't really see them on the Super Chief because of the bags. And the Super Chief has floorboards, and the Super Chief Limited has floorboards. But and this bike is 100% geared to go up against the Harley-Davidson Heritage Classic. Even the seat looks similar to the Heritage Classic from when it got redesigned in 2018 and its current design. So that's my take on the new Indian Chief line. And here at Fort Worth Indian Motorcycle for demo days. So this is what I was talking about with the seat. Chopped fender, kind of scout looking bags. And this is what that bike looked like in previous model years. It's a foot longer, 100 pounds heavier. Starts off with a cheaper price. And on the Chiefs, this is the exterior shock. So those are our Indian Chief lines.